Hi darlings, thank you so much for joining me today. I am working in my mini book that I created from By the Well for God, and I will be working with the coordinating stencils, some of the Tim Holtz mica stain sprays that I have, and this sculpting medium. So I wanted to create a couple of backgrounds just to have for day 1 and 3. So I'm using a piece of cardstock or paper here in the background just to protect the rest of my mini book. And as you can see, I'm going to washi that down, and I'm going to use this really fun dot dash. This was my favorite stencil from this set of 3. And I want to use this in the background here. I really love this design because it is subtle, but it's very pretty. And I love it when it comes all together. It just really pops against this craft paper. Okay, so I'm using a washi tape card or washi card, and I'm using that along with some distress spray that I added to it to just knock back some of the whiteness. And then I'm just going to glide that right through the stencil onto the craft page. Again, I love this design. It's very subtle, but it's a very pretty pattern. And when I add all the metallic-y colors, it just looks so good. So I am making sure to tape down both the stencil and the craft page because I have different layers here and I don't want it to come up. And for the most part, when I'm done with this, the end result is really, really nice. There's one little smudgy part on the right hand side, but for the most part, I really like how it turned out. Okay, so now I'm going to go in with some Distress Mica Stain Sprays, and you guys know how much I love these. This beautiful tarnished brass color is so pretty. I mean, I'm at the end of it, and it's like a coppery color and matches well with the right hand side of the page where it has that half mini file folder. And then I'm going to dry it off. I'm also going to go in with this acrylic paint. This acrylic paint has like a dropper and it has a gold shimmer, and I'm going to add some of those splatters. And you see me drying this off a lot, but I actually let this set overnight to dry off completely because sculpting medium takes a long time to dry. So I'm just going to let that be there. And so that is the end result. I love the shimmer on that page. So now I'm going to do a second one, and you'll see throughout this video that I have some items clipped to the side of the pages. These are the items I know I want to use for each day. So I just clip them right into my journal. So when it's time for me to come down and sit down and actually do the art part, they're ready to go for me to add into my mini book here. Okay, moving on to this next page, I'm going to use the Trinity stencil, and I like this stencil as well, but I wanted to use it in a different way. Instead of filling up the full background, I wanted to create like little distressed spots throughout the page. So I'm also going to tilt it to kind of give it a different look, and then I'm going to washi tape that down, and you'll see me, I'm first going to do a couple of blobs, I'm going to call them, with my sculpting medium, and then I'm going to move the stencil a couple of times to fill in some of the gaps. So here I'm just washi taping this down, and then I'm going to go ahead and grab my sculpting medium, same one. And just so you guys know, I'm using the sculpting medium because I have a full tub of this, and it's a very it's a Art Basics, I think is the brand. It's from Walmart. It's very cheap and it gets the job done. So here I am just spreading some of that all the way around. And something different that I did do with this page is I actually go ahead and spray it while the stencil is still on. And I actually like this better. I don't know if it helped soak in the color better, or I'm not 100% sure, but I actually like how this method work better, but both ways works. I'm also going to move it over to the bottom right hand corner to fill in that little gap there, and then you'll see me move it to the top left hand corner to fill in that gap there. I am using a mix of different greens. I'll list the colors of the mica stain sprays that I use below. I believe the color that I'm using now is Tree Lot and Holly Branch. Holly Branch is the lighter green that I put on first, and Tree Lot is the second color that I add in after I pull off the stencil. And I am using up the very last of this tarnished brass. As you can see, I'm like shaking it, trying to like move the spray stain around because I really wanted to get some of that color. I wanted to add some cohesiveness across, so using that same stain will do that. Okay, now I'm going to move to the very front of my book here. So in the stamp set that came with the kit, there was a little label and there was also the title Delivered to the Saints. So I created a couple of labels, one with an older stamp set and one with the stamp set that came that said Delivered to the Saints. And I went with this one. I actually had already had this label in my stash. I popped dot that and add it to the front of my favorite mini folder, which has that library shelf scene. And now I'm using some already adhesive lace. So it's lace that has adhesive on the back. It's like a lace tape. And I'm going to add that to the top here. And I love this because it adds a little bit of texture to this beginning page. I actually got that at the Dollar Tree for like $1.25 a roll. Now I'm moving over to the second page, which is where I did that dot dash background, and I'm using a journaling card as kind of like as a background layer there, and I love it because it's brown paper packaging, tied up with some twine string, which is so beautiful. And here on this catalog card, I'm actually adding a quote about day one, which talks about the faith. I did a mix of scripture journaling and note taking, but I did a lot of my own study where I was looking at quotes from other scholars and things like that, and looking at commentary. And so you're going to see a mix of that in my actual heart part, which is the Traveler's Notebook journal. Here I am knocking back some of that white from around this stack of books, and I'm going to add this to the corner of my little catalog card here. And I was debating on whether I should just leave it alone or add the journaling card, but I think even though the journaling card doesn't have an actual purpose, I think it creates a very nice layer behind there. And I like how that ends up looking. Now, I did contemplate maybe using another piece of pattern paper along the side of this craft paper because the stencil didn't go all the way across. But after tearing some paper and looking at it, I just thought it would be too much. And I wanted simple layers for this because I really want that catalog card to pop, because that's what has my main takeaway from day one. So I keep it simple, and I'm going to end up with this. I also, after I glue this down, I'm using some Fabri-Tac glue to glue all of this down. The reason I'm using this glue is because there's a lot of different media on this page, and I want to make sure that the paper is adhering to the craft background through the acrylic paint, through the texture paste, through all of it. So I'm using that Fabri-Tac glue. Okay, also I'm going to be adding my numbers, and I pulled out a sheet of rub-ons, and this sheet of rub-ons gives me like Tim Holtz type. It has like his type of typography, and it's actually from the Dollar Tree as well. And I know I've shared that on my channel before, but I'll be using that to add my number. And then I'm cutting out some of the labels, some of the extra stickers that came in the kit to see what I can layer and where I can add my title, which is The Faith, because that is the title for day one. All my titles won't match the actual day. I'm actually in this mini notebook, what I'm doing is I am adding a collection of my notes and main takeaways that I got from my personal study time and from the devotional, not really going directly through each of the days because I already did that in my Traveler's Notebook. So here I am using one of the mini labels, and I used some of the Tau Alphas. I wrote out The Faith, which is the name for day one, and then I also knocked back some of that color with the same brush that I use for the die cut. And then here I'm kind of trying to find a place for the number 1, which I will use to kind of specify the day. And then I'm using the bottom of my X-Acto knife to kind of rub that onto day 1. Okay, knocking back some of that color again on that white label so it doesn't stick out too much. And then I'm moving on to day 2. So day 2, I had a few things. Like I had this fun die cut that I really loved, which is a girl Bible studying on the couch. It reminded me of me with the glasses and the top bun and just hanging out on the couch, having some time with Jesus. So I'm going to cut this out and just leave a little bit of the white border, not too much around the die cut. And then I'm going to add that to the left hand side, which is actually half of a little file folder here. And she fits perfectly in that nook. I'll use my glue to adhere that. On the right hand side, I'll be using a flashcard that says exact, talking about Jesus being the exact imprint or the exact image, right, of God in Hebrews 1:3. And I'm going to use that little flashcard with the mini library card. I almost lost a word there, as a little tuck-in spot, like a little pocket. And here I'm using that number 2. You see, I use that as a rub-on. I'll try to use all of those throughout this mini book, but I might run out of numbers. But I've had fun so far using these instead of using actual numbers because they have like different typography. They're small, they're big, they look a little mixed media-ish, and they really blend well into the background of each of these pages. Okay, so here I created that little pocket. I added some of that number washi that I had in my stash for no other reason than to create more pretty layers onto my page. So here I'm in day 3, and I had set apart this shelf. I really love this bookshelf with the ladder. I wish I had a ladder on a beautiful library bookshelf. And so on the left, I have that bookshelf, and I have the verse from John 3:16 and the word eternal, speaking of the deity of Christ, which is day 3. And I'm going to layer that on the left-hand side. And here I'm flipping through everything. I believe I was looking for some extra layers to add to here, but I couldn't find any. So moving along, I just decided to start adhering what I do have, and then I can add extra layers later. So I'm gluing down that shelf and also adding some glue to that flashcard because I knew I wanted it to be layered. I love also the pop of music paper that's behind there. I think adding different types of paper instead of just having the craft paper throughout my mini book really just gives me different sizes. It keeps it interesting. And for me, I sometimes get bored easy with repetitive things. So this really kept my creative juices flowing. I don't know if that makes sense. Okay, so I added some buffalo plaid washi tape because it's fall and why not? And on the right hand side, I basically glued a Tim Holtz journaling square card with another flashcard that says deity in Colossians 2:9 and a little die cut of some parchment paper rolled up. I am going to put my number 3 on the left hand side, and I also like that when I do the rub-on numbers, they're not perfect, so it gives it kind of a distressed look. And then what I'll do is I'm going to create a flip up on this number 3 on the right hand side so I can add my notes under there. So this is a sneak peek at days 4 and 5, which I will do in the next video. And then this is kind of how days 1 through 3 turned out. So I am going to be adding some more notes. I wanted to use some of the journaling cards in my typewriter and add some other notes. So I'll be doing that and tucking those in later. But this is how days 1 through 3 came out. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I want to continue to kind of show how I'm putting these pages together. I may not do all of the days, but I definitely want to show you guys some inspiration on how to do pages inside your mini book if you guys are working through the mini book this month in By the Well for God. So let me know your thoughts on this. I also, on day 2, I went ahead and added a mini label. And then here I'm adding 3 in 1 because day 2 talks about the Trinity. And I knew I needed to go back and kind of I didn't want to add the Trinity like so specifically, but I did want to add kind of a nod as to the main point of day 2. So you'll see me, I'm adding that here in day 2. As I said, I'll come back and do a flip through of everything all together so you can actually see my notes as well. I'm going to do those off camera because that takes a little bit more time, but I wanted you guys to see the actual creative process. I also am done with days 1 through 7 in my traveler's notebook with the heart part and all of my notes. I know some of you were interested in seeing a flip through of that. Let me know if that's still something you want to see. And thank you so much for joining me each and every video, darlings. God bless. Bye.